We'll have a little bit of time just kind of letting people arrive, letting people come into the session, and then we will make a start. So welcome everybody, welcome into the session. I'm Caroline Inkle, artist and coach, and I'm leading the session today. And it's an exciting session because it's all about creative goal setting. So very warm welcome. And as people are coming in, I'll just set the scene, let you know who I am and what it is that I'm wanting to offer to you today and what I hope you're going to get from the session. So, like I say, my name's Caroline Inkle. I'm an artist and coach, and I help people who are longing to say yes to their creative self. And often that might be for the first time or for the first time in a long time. So I'm here to help people rewrite the story that they've been told, or maybe the one that they've been telling themselves about creativity. So I'm here to help you tap into and find your unlimited creative freedom so that you can be excited to wake up every day, follow your inspiration, and really see your imagination and creativity awaken. So today is about taking a bit of time to say yes to our creativity, to tune into those creative goals. So before we start, I want to remind you that we are all creative. No matter what you've been told, creativity is not reserved for a chosen few. It really is for everyone. So we're all creative, no matter what you've been told. And creativity is important because it helps us express our humanity. It connects us to ourselves, to each other, and to the world in a deeper way. So today we're going to take that time to orientate ourselves towards our creative goals and tune in to what we would really love to happen in our creative life. So maybe something we'd really love to try for the first time. A time to think about something we maybe want to return to, something we've tried in the past but we've let drop. So it's a chance to think about what you would like to achieve in your creative life moving forward today. So I'll be posting questions for you to reflect on and respond to as we move through the session. And then partway through the session, I'll guide you through a visualization so you can tune into the particular aspect of your creative life that you'd like to set a goal in today. So I can see some new people arriving into the session, so I want to offer you a warm welcome. And before we properly get going, I just want to check in that the sound is okay, that you're hearing me okay. So if somebody would be good enough to just pop in the chat that the sound is okay and that you're hearing me, that would be super useful. Thank you. So that's good to know the sound's good. Okay, so we can really kick off. So just a reminder that today's session is interactive. So I'm going to invite you to respond to questions, and you can do that in the chat or you can do that in your own notebook or journal. It's really up to you how you use the space, but this space is for you. So I also really encourage you to share in the chat because it helps us all to learn from each other's experience, and it's great to see what everybody's up to, what kind of creative goals people are aiming towards. So I just invite you again, for the new people, invite you again to pop in the chat whereabouts you are in the world, and also if you'd like to share one thing that you'd like to achieve by the end of the session, because it's really helpful to not only set goals in our creative life, but to set goals for this session to get the most out of it. So if that's useful to you, share in the chat where you are in the world and one thing that you'd like to achieve during the session. And I guess to share where I am in the world, I'm in Scotland, in beautiful Scotland. Not so sunny today, but it often is where I live. So yeah, that's where I am. So giving you a big wave wherever you are in the world. And what I'd like to achieve by the end of the session is for everyone to go away with having set for themselves a creative goal, tuned into what really feels right for you today, set a creative goal, and also having identified one action step that you can take towards that goal. So that's what I would like to achieve during this session. So I'll give a bit of an overview of the workshop because we've still got people arriving. Hello to those who have just joined. So today we'll explore different types of goal setting and creative goals, and how there are we each have a different relationship to goal setting. So we can reflect on what's worked well for us in the past and choose an area of our creativity to focus on for setting a goal. So we'll use both imagination and also a guided visualization, and then practical tools such as the GROW model that I'll explain later to identify a meaningful goal for you today. So you'll leave the session having decided on your next best step, the one that feels right for you just now. Or you may have even gone further and created a bit of an action plan or a bit of an experiment to move forward with your chosen goal. So either way, there'll be a chance to share and declare your next steps in the chat to encourage accountability. And there'll also be an opportunity to just share throughout and let people know how you're getting on. Like I said before, I'll be posing questions throughout the session, and you can feel free to either answer those in the chat, or you can answer those just in your own journal or in your own mind, whatever works best for you. But I hope that you leave today with a clear sense of direction and that you feel excited to take your first steps in your next creative adventure, your next creative goal. So we're all in different places in relation to goal setting and how we approach it. It's all welcome here. This is a space to learn and explore together, as always, and to support each other. So do participate fully and just use the session in a way that's most useful for you. And it's just a reminder again that if you enjoyed the session or you want to keep in touch, you can just follow along with me, and you know how to do that. So we're going to begin by looking at different types of goals and acknowledging that different types of goals require different approaches. For example, we've got at one end of the spectrum huge life dream type goals that we've got no idea what the steps might be to reach them, and we have to apply a bit of intuition, a bit of visioning, and maybe more than a little divine intervention to get there, because they're really like huge, big goals. So I think of these as magical thinking goals. They're instinctive, they're really important to us, but they're without a clear path. There's no kind of tried and tested path to get to them. We're going to have to really, maybe vision into it, feel into it, sense into it, use our instinct to know how to move towards it. And like I say, maybe rely on a bit of divine intervention to get there. And then at the other end of the spectrum, there are very clear goals that also have very clear paths to achieving them. So there might be proven, tested routes that will work for most people, and you can just simply follow along. And I think of these as clear path goals. So they're proven, structured, it's almost guaranteed. If you stick to the plan, then you will achieve that goal. And I think of learning a new skill as maybe coming under this category. So our general relationship with goal setting, just generally in life, might influence our approach to our creative goals. So just take a couple of moments now to consider and respond to this question. And the question is, which end of this spectrum might you most often tend towards when it comes to goal setting in general? So think about some examples of goal setting in your own life and how you tend to approach them. Which end of the spectrum do you gravitate towards most often? Is it magical thinking approaches? You think big and you just dream into it and pray or make a vision board? Or more of the clear path approach where you set a plan and you lay out the steps and you tick it off as you go along and you research and you find a proven set path to where you want to go? So you might be firmly at one end of the spectrum, you might be way over in the other, or you might fluctuate depending on the area of life, and that would be completely normal. And you might also use a bit of both approaches. This is just to sense into maybe where you are most naturally drawn towards. So have a think about that. I'll give you just like a couple of minutes to jot some things down in your journal, or just think quietly to yourself, or you can also share in the chat as well. It's nice to see more people coming in and see a little icons bobbing up and down. So welcome everyone, if you're just coming into the session. So another question to consider for a few moments is, what have your experiences been in tending towards this approach? How has it been working for you? Have your experiences been pretty steady and consistent, or have they been inconsistent and maybe a bit frustrating? Have they been energizing, or do you kind of lose steam with it? Is it great at first, but then you kind of quickly drop off? So we all have our own personal history of how we tend to approach goals, like I said, and it's really useful just to take a moment to consider our own personal experiences, what's working well and what's working not so well for us, and how we might choose to apply different approaches to creative goal setting. So just to repeat that question again, what have your experiences been in tending towards the approach that you take? And while you're responding to this, noting it down in your journal or responding in the chat, or just thinking to yourself, I'll share just one or two personal examples, or I'll try and think of an example from either end. And just to give a little sense. So these are just from life, these are not necessarily creative. So those of you who know a bit about me and follow me will know that I'm currently embarking on a very big kind of magical thinking life dream type goal, and that is that with my husband I'm renovating a garden in Spain with the hope of one day maybe having it as a creative retreat centre. So that goal came about very much through visioning, imagining. It was actually during a coaching exercise when we were asked to reflect on what speech we would give at our 100th birthday, or what somebody might say at our funeral. So it was really an exercise on like understanding that we get one life and it ends at some point, and what is it that we want to have sort of achieved, what's really important. And we only had 10 minutes to do this exercise, and so that really kind of focuses the mind. So I chose the one where I was giving a speech at my 100th birthday, and it wasn't so much the content of the little speech I was giving, but really the location and the place that I was, because I had this really strong image finding myself in this beautiful space that was kind of like an indoor outdoor space I imagined it as some kind of like barn, but it was definitely in a hot country. It was lush all around. There were lots of trees and plants. There were lots of people there who had been coming there for many years, friends and family. There were grandchildren, great grandchildren running around, and there was plentiful food on a big long table, and all the food had been grown in the garden. And I had such a strong image of that place and such a strong feeling that went with it, that I carried that with me. And then I've always had the goal that I wanted to spend more time in a hot country, and maybe live in a hot country for some part of my life. And so of course I was sort of looking in that direction, but this goal was just absolutely magical thinking. But then I had an experience where, after a few years of thinking and orientating myself into this direction, we were on holiday. Me and my husband were on holiday, and we thought, well, we'll just have a look at a few places. And we went to look at a small bit of land, a very small patch of land. But immediately when I walked in, because I'd had such a strong image, such a strong feeling, and I'd imagined it so clearly during this exercise, when we walked into this place, even though we had no intention, in fact, we just decided definitely no to the idea of getting a place in Spain the day before. When we walked into this place, this garden, I just recognised it. I recognised it. It felt really familiar to me. And the rest is history, and it's a longer story. And if you want to know how it's going, because we do now stay there part of the year, live there part of the year, and we are renovating that garden. So if you want to know about that, you just keep in touch. So that's one end of the spectrum. It's very magical thinking. No idea how this goal is going to come about, but a very clear sense of it, a very clear feeling of what it feels like, what it would feel like to have achieved it, sensing into the visuals, the bodily senses. So it's so important when you've got these big goals in that way, that you get a really clear sense of them and try and make it as rich as possible. And so I'll remind you of that maybe when we come to the visualization bit. So that's right on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, I would probably I'll go for a related goal, which is learning to speak Spanish, which is a huge challenge for me, but one that I'm embarking on. And this began many years ago, where I became interested. I became very interested. I've been working away in my studio for a long time, and creative work is so rich and fulfilling and rewarding, but also sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming, because there's often not kind of clear steps. So at the time, I think I was craving to learn something and to follow a kind of strategy or clear steps. And I was also really interested in experimenting with what happens when we have beliefs about ourselves but we just move towards goals anyway, despite that. So I had a really clear sort of belief that it was impossible for me to learn another language. But of course, I began to question that. So, well, I've always just assumed it's impossible, but that's ridiculous, because all over the world people speak other languages. It must be a thing that people can do, and surely if you just follow the steps, it might be slow, but progress will be made. So I began to embark upon this journey, and despite my belief that it's impossible, it seems that bit by bit I began to make progress. Now, progress has been slow. It's not something that I'm particularly good at, but now I can actually get by and have conversations, and I'm continuing to learn and I'm continuing to develop. And there's clear strategies for doing that. And I can just carry on taking those steps and see that I am, however slow, I am making progress. And that's very helpful to the life that I'm building now, where I'm spending part of the time in Spain. So there are two kind of ends of the spectrum. One where who knows how it's going to happen. We just have to kind of keep moving towards the vision and pray that things come along and see what happens. On the other end of the spectrum, something that's got very clear steps. I can take a course, I can get an app, I can do all sorts of things. There's a clear structure behind it. So now that you've had a chance to hear a little bit about me and have a couple of examples, and we've had a chance to reflect on what types of goals you tend to set and in which areas of life, and think about what your experiences have been with doing that. How's that approach been going? Steady, inconsistent, frustrating, energizing? So all of this is just to highlight that we've each got our own history of goal setting, and you probably do a bit of both in different parts of life. But it's just an opportunity to think about what might be the best approach for each of us right now to genuinely support who we are and where we are in life and what we want to achieve creatively. So this is a moment to just sit and think to yourself, or you can write it in your journal or respond in the chat, and think about, when has a particular approach to goal setting gone really well for you? So what's an example, a real life example from your life, when a goal setting approach really worked well? So you set a goal and you achieved it, or something similar, or something better, which is often the case. You often go past and not only succeed but surpass the goals that you set. So when has a particular approach to goal setting worked really well for you? And what helped it succeed? What supported you specifically? So just take a couple of minutes to think about that and reflect. Like I say, you can just think to yourself, or you can write it in your journal, or you can share it in the chat. And now another question, and that is, how might you apply aspects of that approach, the one that worked really well in other areas of your life, to your creative goals? How might you apply aspects of that approach to your creative goals? So the approach that worked really well for you. And again, you can share that in the chat, or you can just write it in your journal, or just think quietly to yourself. And when you've done that, we're going to transition into finding what that goal might be. So identifying a creative goal. And to do this, I'm going to lead you in a guided visualization. So you can let your intuition guide you towards how your creativity wants to be developed. You may already have come with ideas, and that's completely fine. But I invite you now to just relax and join in with this visualization and see what arises, because you might be surprised, something else might come up. When I've run this workshop before, some people have been really surprised. They've come with a really clear idea and then they've done the visualization and it's been something completely different that's come up and that's emerged for them. So find a comfortable position where you can relax and lightly close your eyes if that's safe to do so. And I'll lead you in a relaxing visualization. And just to give you a sense of what's to come, I'm going to guide you through a garden with a path representing your creative direction, and a clearing with doorways that will represent aspects of your creativity to explore or expand, and an invitation to enter a doorway of your chosen aspect. And then you'll get the opportunity to imagine how you would love things to be. So how it looks, how it feels, and how it might unfold. And I want to remind you here to let yourself really explore how you would love it to be. Not what you think you should want or what you should do, but what you actually want and where your intuition is guiding you. Okay, so if you found a nice comfortable space, then just find a comfortable position and allow your body to be supported. Gently close your eyes if that's safe to do so. And take a slow breath in through your nose. Pause briefly and then exhale through your mouth. Again, just breathing in, letting it out, maybe with a soft sigh. And just allow your breath to settle into its own natural rhythm. Feel the support beneath you, the chair or the floor or the ground, holding you without any effort. Let your shoulders soften, your jaw unclench. Your hands rest easily. With each exhale, imagine any tension just melting away. Melting away from your face, from your neck, from your chest, from your belly, from your legs. And just draining all the way down into the earth. There's nothing to do, nothing to achieve. You're just arriving here. Now, in your mind's eye, imagine yourself standing before a gently arched gateway, entwined with vines and soft blooming flowers. The air here feels warm and welcoming. There's a faint scent of earth and blossoms. When you're ready, step forward. And as you pass beneath the archway, leaves brush lightly against your skin, and you find yourself entering a lush, vibrant garden. Sunlight filters through the trees. Birdsong drifts in the distance, and everything feels alive, abundant, just quietly encouraging. Pause here. Take in the colours around you. There's rich greens, soft golds, deep pinks, flashes of blue and violet. Just feel the ground beneath your feet, steady, warm and supportive. This garden represents your creative life, a place where nothing is judged, where curiosity is welcome, where creativity grows in its own time, a place where you belong. Ahead of you, you notice a gently winding path and begin to walk along it at an easy pace. With each step, feel a subtle warmth rising from the earth into your feet, into your legs, into your belly, and into your chest. A quiet energy begins to stir, a sense of possibility. And as you walk, gently bring your attention inwards and ask yourself, what am I curious about right now? What am I curious about right now? There's no need for a fully formed goal, just notice what draws your attention. Perhaps images arise, or a feeling, or a word, or a simple sense of pull in a particular direction. As you continue walking now, you might begin to sense a creative direction or theme, maybe something like singing or using your voice, maybe painting, drawing or visual art, writing, storytelling, maybe dancing or movement, crafting, making, designing, or maybe something less defined, but particular to you. Let it stay broad. This is about direction. You don't need the detail right now. But just ask yourself gently, what wants to be explored through me? Notice what feels alive, light, or intriguing, even if it also feels a little scary. Just trust what arises. The path now opens into a sunlit clearing. And in this space stand several simple, beautiful doorways. Each doorway represents a quality or aspect that you might embody as you pursue your creative path, or the direction that you sensed into. You notice words carved into the wood, such as curiosity, playfulness, freedom, permission, courage, devotion, joy, ease, self-trust. You don't need to analyse them, but just stand in the clearing and ask yourself, how do I want to feel as I create? What quality would support me most right now? And just allow one doorway to draw your attention. Is it curiosity, playfulness, freedom, permission, courage, devotion, joy, ease, self-trust? Notice which one feels warm, intriguing, or just right. And when you're ready, walk towards it. Place your hand on the door and feel its texture beneath your palm. Take a breath and step through. You now enter a space that represents your life when you're pursuing this creative direction and embodying this chosen quality. So take a moment and really look around. Where are you? Notice the space. Are you indoors or outside? What time of day is it? What colours surround you? Really begin to imagine yourself living this creative life. See yourself engaging with your creativity, gently, naturally, in a way that fits who you are. And notice how your body feels as you create. The expression on your face, the energy in your chest and belly. What does it feel like to create with curiosity or playfulness or freedom, permission, courage, devotion, joy, ease, self-trust? Let the experience deepen and become richer. What sounds are present? Music, silence, your own breath, your voice. What textures do you notice? The feel of materials, some movement, or are there tools or space? What kind of space is this? What emotions are present? Satisfaction, joy, calm, aliveness. Now imagine this creativity rippling gently into the rest of your life. How does your day feel different? How do you relate to yourself? How do you move through the world? Notice any sense of expansion, ease or grounding, and just stay here for a few moments, allowing the vision to deepen. There's nothing to force, nothing to perfect. You can just let yourself be and experience in your imagination what's possible. Now gently bring one hand to your heart or anywhere that feels comforting and silently acknowledge this is a direction I'm allowed to explore. And this is a quality available to me. This is a direction I'm allowed to explore. This is a quality available to me. Feel the garden holding this intention for you, like a seed planted in rich soil. It doesn't need to grow all at once. It's got its own timing. And when you're ready, begin to step back through the doorway. Return to the clearing. Carry that feeling with you. Begin to follow the path back through the garden. Notice the archway ahead and step through it, knowing that you can return here anytime you wish, to begin to feel the support of the garden. Now start to feel the chair beneath you or the ground beneath you, the room around you. Notice your breath moving easily in and out. Maybe wiggle your fingers and toes. Take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes and let whatever you discovered in the garden come back with you as a spark that you can start to tend in your own way. So, welcome back everyone. Welcome back from your garden. And I hope that that was relaxing. And I hope you can hold with you what you found there. So I invite you now to just take a moment while you're still in that relaxed, still space and in touch with the images and feelings from your visualization. Just take a couple of moments now, and if you have paper or a journal with you, you can doodle or jot down any shapes, any words or ideas that are starting to emerge. Or you could just sit quietly and let them form in your mind. If you feel comfortable, you can share in the chat any significant words or phrases that have emerged for you. And this is your moment just to recognize and define for yourself your emerging goal, and to know why it matters, because you've sensed into the possibilities that could come with choosing that creative direction, and from engaging in that creative direction from the quality of experience that you would really like to have, whatever that was. So it's a moment to think about how life would feel different if you were to begin to progress in the direction that your intuition is taking you. To just have a couple of minutes to doodle or jot down thoughts, or just to reflect quietly to yourself. And then after that, you'll have an opportunity to really clarify what your creative goal or creative direction might be. a moment to put it into words and move from feelings and images into something a little bit more clear, and to share that if you'd like to. So now that you've had a couple of moments to reflect on your intuitive creative direction, I'm going to give you an opportunity to identify and share your creative goal. So what was the goal or the vision that emerged? And what felt meaningful or exciting about it? And as usual, this is something that you can share here in the chat, or you can just write it in your journal, or you can reflect to yourself, but try and clarify what that goal is. So what was the goal or the vision that emerged? What felt meaningful or exciting about it? So this helps move from imagination into something a little bit more tangible through the use of words. So when we've got goals, when we've got dreams, they start off just as energy up here in the head, in the imagination. And it's great to spend time there. It's great to spend time really tuning in and imagining and really getting to know what those goals are and what those dreams are, and also to really get in tune with what the right direction is. So spending a lot of time in the imagination and in that visioning stage is really great. But if we want to move towards our goals, we need to start bringing them down a little bit and grounding them. So going from here, all in the head and the energy, into the real world. And a great way to do that is to start to clarify them in words. So using words to really get clear on what those goals are, and then to share that if you feel ready to. So if everybody's done that, we're going to move more into the practical aspect of this workshop. So we've spent time with our intuition, we've spent time visioning, we've talked about our different approaches to goal setting and what's worked and what hasn't worked so well, and how we might like to apply different types of approaches to creative goal setting. And the answer to that is really up to you, depending on what's worked well for you. But I'm going to take you now through the GROW model. So that's a way, again, of starting to ground a goal and take it from ideas into reality, so we can start to move forward. Because having goals and dreams are great, but I know that you're all creative people who want to make things happen in your own lives and in the world. So this is a way that we can start moving into a kind of action, practical phase of the workshop. So hopefully you've identified a creative goal, or at least a direction. So now I'll introduce you to this GROW model. We're kind of circling back to where we began and starting to think about the best approaches in taking the first step towards starting to achieve that creative goal that you identified. So the GROW model stands for G for goal, and that's the bit that you've already done. So we've spent most of the time there because that's the most important bit, because there's no point in rushing that bit, because that's the most important bit. It's the goal, it's the purpose, it's the direction. So it's good to spend a lot of time there, like I've said, imagining, really feeling into it, really knowing and sensing that it's right for you. So we start with the G, the goal, and you've already identified it. We move on to R for reality, and that's just a chance to assess where you are now in relation to your goal. It's not, doesn't have to be an opportunity for judgment. It's just an assessment, like where are you now? How does reality look to you now? And then the O stands for opportunity. And that is, what opportunities can you identify right now to help you move towards your goal? And then the W finally stands for will. So that's, what will you actually commit to? What's the first step that you're willing to take to move towards your goal? And that's the all important bit, because really the first step can be the hardest. And you can often find that when you've taken the first step, the other one just follows, and the next one follows, and the next one follows. And really, there's only ever one thing to focus on, and that is the next step. It's just the next step, and then the next step, and the next step. So it makes life easy. No matter how big your goals are, there's only ever just one step to take, and that's the next step. So that's the final step, is will. What will you commit to? So since, as we've already identified our goal, our creative goal or our creative direction, we're now gonna, and don't worry if you haven't, that might emerge for you later on. You might not have a clear sense, but I'm sure this is still going to be helpful, because that might emerge in the hours or days following this workshop. So don't worry about that. I know you'll certainly have made good progress, and you might have just found an orientation point into a particular direction. So I'm sure that something will emerge if it hasn't done in this workshop so far. So either way, we're going to begin now with the R of the GROW model. So that's reality. So I'm going to give you something to reflect on. So take a moment now to reflect on the following questions, and note down your responses in your journal or in the chat, or just think to yourself quietly in your own space. And the first question is, where are you now in relation to your goal? Where are you now in relation to your goal? And the second question is, what feels like it's getting in the way right now? What feels like it's getting in the way right now? And the third question is, what patterns of belief are influencing things? What thoughts, ingrained thoughts or patterns of belief might be influencing things? So take a little moment to just reflect and respond to that. And as you do, remember, it's not about getting stuck in limiting beliefs or feeling disheartened or bad about yourself if you're a long way from your goal, or if you do have these ideas or kind of repeating thoughts that tend to get in the way. You don't need to worry about that, because thoughts are just thoughts. It's what you actually do that counts. And every journey, no matter how long, begins with and is made up of single steps. And that's what we're going to identify today, the first step towards your goal. So it doesn't matter how many times you've started before and haven't carried on. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think about it. It doesn't matter what other people have said about it, or what you've said to yourself about it. Maybe even if that's been going on a long time, it actually doesn't matter. What matters is the direction you want and choose to move in, and the steps that you're willing to take, just one at a time. And they can be very small steps. It can be very small steps. So, whether you tend towards being a magical thinker type of goal setter or clear path type, both approaches and everything in between simply require you to keep identifying and taking the next step. So whether that's in your guided plan or following your intuition or inner guidance, that's what's important. Just identifying and taking that next step. That's what's going to make your goals and your dreams become a reality. And that's what's going to move you towards your creative goals, just like any other goal in life. So if you've had a chance to think about those questions, we'll move on to the next bit. So the next step in the GROW model. We've done goals, we've done reality, and now we're on to the exciting bit, opportunities. So this is the good bit. This is where we see, ooh, what's available to me? What possibilities are out there? So that's the O of the GROW model. So take a moment and reflect on and respond to the following questions. And again, you can make notes in your journal, or you can post your reflections in the chat to share. That's totally fine. So the questions are these, and there's three. And the first one is, what possibilities do you see? What possibilities do you see? The second one is, what could move you towards your goal? What could move you towards your goal? And the third one is, what might need to shift or be released so that you can take action? What might need to shift or be released so that you can take action? And I'm going to encourage you, as you ponder on these questions, I'm going to encourage you to employ curiosity and imagination. Might there be new possibilities that you haven't even been willing to see before, let alone try? Might there be something new there that you can see now that you haven't seen before? Because you're not stuck. You can try something new. Maybe you've got an example of someone else who's had success achieving a similar goal. Might that also work for you? Might you be willing to experiment and give it a try and see? Think about asking yourself questions that start, what might happen if... ... Fill in the blanks. What might happen if? What possibilities are there for you today that you can see? What opportunities might there be? Maybe that you haven't seen before. Or maybe that you see out there. You see an example of someone else doing a similar thing. If they're doing it, you can try it. You could try that approach. That's fine. You try it in your own way. But see if it works for you. You could test it out. You could do an experiment. You could see what might happen if I tried this, whatever it is, for a week, for a few days, for 2 weeks, for a month. What might happen? You can also reflect back and remember the beginning of the session where you remembered an example of where goal setting had gone really well for you. Are there opportunities to use your past experience, maybe in another area of life, to help you to achieve or move towards your creative goals, or just to help you spot an opportunity? Okay, so now you've had a few moments to think about that. I want to introduce you to the final part of the GROW model, and that's the all-important W. So that's will, if you remember, will. What will you do? What will you actually do? So plans and goals are absolutely wonderful, as are dreams and visions, but as I've said before, they start with a single simple step. So whether you are plotting your course step by step in a really clear plan, or you're relying on the universe to do the heavy lifting to fulfill your vision, action from you is always required. That's a bit that you can't really get away with. Action is always required to make things happen. Action from you. So what are you willing to do? And what will be that first step towards your creative goal? And remember, it can be small, depending on where you are in terms of your relationship to your creativity. It can be a tiny step. If you're not feeling confident, it can be a very small step. But what will it be? So I'm going to invite you now to take a couple of moments to consider. And then, if you're feeling brave, you can also share that. You can share that in the chat. You can share that here to have some sense of accountability. Or you can share it so you can see it in writing. Because like I described before, we're taking dreams and goals from up here in the realm of imagination, and we're gently, through steps, grounding them into reality. So stating what your goal is part of that, and stating what your action is also part of that. So I'll give you a few minutes. And see if anybody wants to share what that step is. So one opportunity or action step you feel genuinely willing to commit to. Remembering it can be a very small step. We don't need a grand plan here right now, just a simple first step towards the direction of your creative goal. And here's a tip. There are a couple of ways that you can shape your action step. You could use the SMART acronym, which lots of people will be familiar with. So you can aim to make your first step specific, measurable, achievable, relevant and time bound. And you can use that same acronym to form your goal if you want to clarify it even further. Or you could create a tiny experiment. You could create an experiment where you test something out. Remember the question, what might happen if ... you fill in the blanks. So you could set out to answer that question. If there's something you'd like to try, you could decide what that action is and choose a specific amount of time, say a week or 2 weeks, and you could test it out and say, every day for the next week or 2 weeks, I will do this particular step and I'm going to see what happens. So that's another way that you can think about action steps and plans towards goals. So just choose the approach that feels most supportive for you. And you can try it. Maybe if you've tried other approaches to goal setting before and they've not worked, this one might be really helpful. So see what you feel drawn towards. And just see how well it works. So test it out and see how well it's moving you towards your goal. And if it's not working, then you can try a different approach. So have a think now and think about what approach might work best for you, so that you've got a clear step, you've got a clear plan, you've got your goal or direction, you've got your action step, and you've got a sense of approach that you're going to take. And while you're mulling that over and maybe considering popping it in the chat, I'll just take a little moment to talk about accountability and how helpful it can be to think about how this relates again to the first part of our session in terms of what works best for you when it comes to holding yourself accountable to your goals, or when it comes to being able to move forward towards achieving them. Because for some people it's enough to simply write a goal down or put a date or a task in their diary, And for others, it works well to have some clear external accountability, such as raising money for a charity if you're running a marathon, for example. So just have a think about what tends to work well for you. It might be just that you decide to tell a friend or family member and then check in with them around your creative goals. Or maybe you're just simply setting alerts on your phone to remind you of your action or your experiment that you've decided to take. Or you might use a habit tracker, a creativity habit tracker. Whatever works for you is fine, but just know that accountability can be a really big factor in helping you move towards your goals and to keep that momentum going. So with that in mind, I'm going to give you a final opportunity to see if you want to share and declare your goal right now in the chat, or to yourself with the view to sharing it with someone else later. So it's time now to clarify your goal or direction and the first step that you're willing to take. I'll give you a few moments. Like I said, you can write it down in your journal, you can share it now in the chat, or you can write it down on a post-it note to remind you to share it with someone else later. So that's your creative goal and your first action step. So there's no obligation here, but accountability can really help. Whether that's in the form of simply declaring the goal, so sharing and declaring, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm willing to do, this is what I've committed to do to move towards my goal. Or you could think about pairing up with an accountability buddy. If you've got a friend or if you've got a coach, you could ask them to keep you accountable. You could invite a weekly check-in from a friend. So all these things can be really helpful. So just have a think about what works for you. But it's time now for me to bring this session to a close, and just to thank you all so much for being here and for participating and for sharing, those of you that have shared, but also just for joining in and being here with us, and creating a bit of energy over creative goal setting. We're obviously all here interested in creativity and how to nourish that and nurture that. So I hope you feel excited to be moving forward with your own creative adventures and to be encouraging others. And I really hope that this session has helped you identify an authentic creative goal or direction, one that feels really right for you just now, and a sense of permission to approach goal setting and creative goals in the way that works for you. And I hope that you've identified a really clear and really achievable first step towards your creative goal or direction. So remember, you have permission to say yes to your creativity, no matter what you've been told by anyone else, teachers, parents, friends, anyone, or by yourself. Creativity is absolutely not reserved for a chosen few people, for artists and musicians or dancers. It's for everyone. And that means it's for you. It's part of your human nature. It's part of your life. And I hope we can keep in touch, because I'd love to support you in exploring your creative freedom and to encourage you and be a cheerleader on your creative adventures. And I'd also love to know how this session has impacted you. Like I say, I really hope you've identified and really had the opportunity to feel into that creative goal or direction and get a sense of what it would mean for you and your life, not just your creative life, but the rest of your life, to live into that and live into that with the quality of experience that you identified. So I'd love us to stay in touch, and I hope that we see each other again soon. And if you've got any final reflections on the session, on the workshop, you're very welcome to share them in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. And yeah, wish you all a wonderful day.